everyone. Welcome back, or welcome to That's Some Idea. I'm Erica. If you are returning, hey. If you are new here, stick around, subscribe, come hang out. This is part 2 of Garden Week. In my first video with Garden Week, I did lots of goodies for my fairy garden that I shared from Dollar Tree. So make sure if you haven't seen that, go check it out. Let me know what was your favorite item and if you are also planning on doing a fairy garden. This round, I am going to be sharing a couple more things for my fairy ground, fairy ground. Well, that's a thing too, but fairy garden. And then I'm also going to be sharing the larger set today is for my rock garden. And these items did come from Temu. And I also am going to be showing you a couple of things from my stash that I'm going to be incorporating with my rock garden that are from Dollar Tree, so that you can also just kind of see the whole picture of what I am envisioning. So kick back, grab a drink. We're gonna go through this. I have like 15 boxes in front of me and I'm just gonna go around. I'm literally and figuratively boxed in right now with boxes in front of me. So I'm gonna be picking items out of the box and showing you. So without further ado, let's get into this haul. And I'm gonna try not to edit. So if I say something wrong, I'm gonna have to correct myself. But the first thing that I bought, there's 2 of them. I'm gonna show you what they look like. These are garden stakes and they are solar powered. And I got these from Temu and they look like moons, and then their little lights are solar powered. You can see the panel right there. And it's a pretty big, this is probably 3 feet. And I'm gonna stick this on my back patio. I bought 2 of them. One will probably go, you know, either in my rock garden, but I know I'm gonna stick one of them in my fairy garden so that it kind of looks like a moon at night shining down on the fairy garden. So I grabbed 2 of these. And then for another piece for my fairy garden, this is also solar. I'm gonna pull it out and grab it out of the bag. Super cute. This is a hollowed out tree stump. This is acrylic. It is solar powered, so that when it gets its charge from the sun and at night, the rooms will light up. And you can kind of see the little mushrooms in the little house for either a gnome or a fairy. Just so stinking cute. And this is about, I want to say this is like 10 or 11 inches high. So this will go into the fairy garden. Super cute. Another little whimsical piece that's also solar that's going to go into the fairy garden is this little tree house with the little bluebird on it. So cute. And this one is roughly about 8-9 inches tall, and you can see it's solar powered. So grab that one as well. And just to kind of give you a price breakdown with Temu, I know if you've seen other haulers, Temu has really great prices with things. The prices vary, so you definitely want to go online and look. But I bought a lot of these items on sale. These are larger pieces that I got from Temu. So I paid anywhere from like $12 to, I think the highest thing I paid for was probably $22. So just to kind of give you a rough estimate, if you are starting something like a fairy garden or a rock garden and you're doing something in your landscaping, just to kind of give you a ballpark figure of maybe what you need to budget for or kind of how you can collect these pieces. So moving on to the final piece that's going to go into my fairy garden, again, is another tree house that is solar powered, and this does have a gnome and a fairy built into it, and I thought this was so cute. My daughter absolutely loved these when she saw them. We're going to have so much fun when we put these up. You can see it's solared, and then there's a little light in there that'll light it up, as well as right here. You can see the little lights. This will light up. So super fun fact, I guess really off topic, but fun story. Well, it's not really off topic because it's talking about fairies. But So my daughter loves to build the fairy gardens with me, and she is in grade school, and she has lost almost all of her teeth. All of her new ones are coming in, but she's still got, you know, maybe 1, 2 left. And about a week and a half ago, she lost another one. And she came to me and she said, Mom, I want to ask the tooth fairy for $100. And I said, I don't think that the tooth fairy makes that kind of investment for teeth. You might want to be a little bit more realistic in asking the tooth fairy for, you know, money for your tooth. You know, because she's obviously using it for magic, and my daughter was just absolutely insistent that she was going to ask for $100. So we've had the conversation that my lineage roots are Irish, and as well as a couple of other things. But I've, always talked to my daughter that, the Fae folk come from Ireland and Wales and Scotland. And when my daughter lost her tooth, she decided to get on to Google and Google how to write $100 in Gaelic, because the fairies and the tooth fairy comes from Ireland, so she has to speak Gaelic. And I, was I applauded her for her gumption and her wisdom to Google how to ask for $100 in Gaelic to the tooth fairy. But I said, I think because she's a fairy, she probably doesn't, maybe she speaks fairy and not Gaelic. But she did it anyway, and I couldn't fault her for her gumption. And then in the morning, the tooth fairy did end up giving her $5 in quarters, because I think, the tooth fairy thought that she meant she wanted multiple forms or multiple pieces of money. So she was a little confused, but super happy, and stuck all of her $5 in quarters into her piggy bank. So something cute, just with fairies and, her understanding of, the fairy world and how whimsical and fun it can be. So that is the last piece that's going to go into the fairy garden. Now we're going to move on to my rock garden. A rock garden, if you have, done Pinterest or, Google, or even folks on YouTube that do gardening, rock gardens typically are what they are. It's more of like landscaping artwork that you use rock with, and you can incorporate plants, and you can incorporate other structures with your rock garden. If you think about, sort of Japanese style gardens that incorporate a lot of water, they incorporate rock, they incorporate, foliage. That's kind of my interpretation and the sort of inspiration that I get for my rock garden. My rock garden sits on the north side of my house. I had a lot of overgrown, really tall bushes that just weren't, when I moved into my house, they weren't, really properly maintained or taken care of. And so I had them all removed, as well as they were causing wasp and hornet's nest problems. So we ended up removing everything. And so I had this sort of flat canvas of an area of landscaping on the side of my house that I was trying to figure out what to do with it. So I decided that I was going to get decorative rock from, the Lowe's and Home Depot, and I was going to create more of a sort of landscaping rock garden style on the side of my house. And I purchased 2 different styles of rock, and I ended up making sort of like a waterway with the 2 different colors. And I will show pictures once I start this summer putting a lot of these pieces out. But I ended up letting a certain weed grow behind my house for a majority of the summer, because it had these really large leaves. And I let it grow for the purpose of cutting the leaves. And I used cement to create sort of a lily pad leaf. and I created my sort of rock garden landscape. So I have just the rocks and in the formation that they are, and sort of these cute little lily pads that I used from growing a weed. And so I wanted to add more decoration to it. So again, if you are familiar with more of like Japanese style gardens, this is more of my inspiration. This is going to look a little bit like a Zen garden on the side of my house, and these pieces reflect that. So let's get into that, and I'll start pulling from the boxes and show you kind of what I'm talking about. So the first one is, these are solar powered, is a small pagoda. As you can see, this is acrylic. This has some weight to it, but not a lot. You can insert rock into the middle because it is hollow, just to give it some weight. And it is solar powered. So that is the first pagoda that'll go, you know, strategically inside of the rock garden. The second one is a circular pagoda, a little bit smaller, but still solar powered. Circular style pagoda. And the detail is just wonderful. As you can see there with those little sort of the scroll work that's happening. Again, this is solar. You can see it's solar panel. This is a little bit taller, a little different. This actually looks, this is solar. It looks like it has a flame in it. You can see there the flame inside. And then, whoop, who wanted it? And then the panel up there for the solar power. It wanted to run away from me is what it wanted to do. Okay, and then let's grab from the top here. Okay, this one I was so excited to find. I'm going to put this up against the wall where the rock meets. This is a Buddha style lantern, and it is holding two more style, like pagoda style lanterns with the flames. This is solar. And I guess now that I'm thinking about it, I may not be able to fully put it up against the wall because the solar panel is in the back. So I might have to rethink my strategy there on that one. But I thought this was just, this is beautiful. And I just absolutely love how peaceful it is, and where I am hoping to put it. It's just gonna look just wonderful in my rock garden. So there's that one. And then another one along that style is another sort of Buddha statue. And this one is laying and relaxing. And my rock garden comes to sort of a circular part of the landscaping where it looks just, there used to be a big bush, overgrown bush, and when I took it out, it just kind of left this large circular part of my landscaping. And so I made that sort of like where the water came full to a pond. So with the lily pads sitting on it of the leaves that I made from a weed. But this will kind of sit there and look really nice and relaxing on the side of my house, and just really peaceful and calm. And that's kind of the look that I was going for. And the other one that I grabbed, this is one of the biggest pieces. And this is going to probably go towards the back where I have the waterway starting. And again, I will show pictures once I start putting these pieces out so you can kind of get a really good idea of what I'm gonna be doing as I build the garden. But this is a large, very tall sort of pagoda tower. And this is just absolutely gorgeous. Again, the scroll work, and you can just kind of see how tall. This is about 15 inches, 15, 17 inches tall. Again, solar powered. This is just gonna look so cool at night, so pretty, so calm, which is really what I was going for. So there is that one. And that's everything that I got from Temu. I am gonna show Dollar Tree, I believe it was last year, put out these wonderful solar lights, these solar lanterns. And I kept them knowing that I was going to start this project. I couldn't start the project last year. I traveled all summer and I just didn't have the time to really get in and sort of formulate what I was doing with this rock garden. I had basically the opportunity to put the rocks in and let it be and just kind of have this landscaping on the side of my house, but I couldn't really do any more. But I got these lanterns when I saw them. I grabbed, how many did I grab? I grabbed 6 of them. And these are also going to go sort of strategically along the ledge of my landscaping of my rock garden. And if anybody remembers these were the solar hook lanterns. You can kind of see them there on the side. These just, you can kind of see my vision. This absolutely just goes together. And I put one together to show you what they look like on the outside. And I haven't removed the batteries yet on this because I was saving them strategically to build this rock garden out. And this is kind of what you're looking at. You know, you've got probably about 4 inches to stake in, and then it sort of sits about a foot high. So it's more of like a pathway lantern, which is really what I was going for. So the 6 of these are just gonna be so cool placed there, and everything's gonna be solar. And it's going to just look so neat there. I am considering also, I have been on the Temu website since this, as I was looking at everything solar and like knowing that it's going to be lit up at night. Temu also has glow in the dark sort of like bags of rocks that you can get. And I think I'm also going to order several bags of those and then strategically place them into the rock bed that I have built, so it kind of looks like the water is glowing at night. That is another thing that I'm seriously considering. And well, who am I kidding? I'm probably gonna do it anyway because this vision is gonna come to life. But that's something that I am probably going to order and will share on another haul. And then as I build this rock garden, I'll take you along for the journey. So that is everything that I grabbed for my rock garden. A couple more pieces for my fairy garden. It's April here in, you know, the northern part of the United States. It's still a little cold, so it's kind of hard to get out into the gardens. I'm more of just sort of getting everything prepared, and definitely when it gets more towards the end of April and gets a little warmer, we'll definitely be able to kind of get out there and start really formulating and doing things. So I'll take you along for the journey. Let me know what your favorite piece was in this haul. I love everything, but I think probably my 2 favorite pieces are this lovely piece right here is one of my absolute favorites. That's just going to be stunning in my rock garden. And then probably these. I thought these were just a steal. I think I paid around $20 for each of them, which isn't bad for their size. But these sort of like, almost like doll houses, and they're gonna glow in the dark in my fairy garden. These were probably equally my favorites. Let me know what your favorite was. Let me know, are you doing any sort of gardening this year? Do you use florals? Are you starting a rock garden? Are you starting a fairy garden? And what you're planning on doing this summer. And share your ideas. I would love to hear them. Thanks so much for stopping by. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button, come hang out longer, and I will see you all on the next go around.